before we kick it off, you're going to hear from a licensee. You're going to hear from professionals in real estate, construction, security, compliance, and really how you can set yourself up for success across the full vertical, specifically here in Florida. So I'm going to kick it off with you, Jasmine. If you could just give a
Real
brief
quick, Dan,
introduction. Oh,
just want to
sorry,
formally
sorry,
welcome
Todd. Go ahead.
everybody to our
Apologies.
monthly. Just want to formally welcome everybody to the monthly C Lab educational panel. If you're not familiar with C Lab, we are a professional cannabis networking group here in the state of Florida. We have chapters all across the state now. Spawned out of South Florida, we have chapters in Broward, Dade, Orlando, Tampa, soon to be Fort Myers. Chapters in Tallahassee and Jacksonville. So if you're not familiar with us, please check us out. We have events the third Thursday of every month in person. That's what we're talking about. We have events going on in Fort Lauderdale as well as Tampa tonight. So if you're in those geographies and you want to check it out in person, those will be at American Social from 6 to 9 p.m. Um, we also have our conference on the books for next year. It is going to have a little bit more of an international flair for it. So if you want to understand the globalization of cannabis, check that out. That's going to be October 2nd and 3rd next year at the Diplomat in Hollywood. So good place to get out of the when it's starting to get cold in your area. Come down, join us in Florida. It's going to be a great time. And then we also will be sponsoring this year. And it's the beginning of the year. So this October, which is 2025. And then we'll also be sponsoring the after party for Canna DataCon. The only way to get into that is to be a C Lab member or an attendee of Canna DataCon. That's going to be on February 6th. So without further ado, we will switch this back to Dan Sparks, who's going to be leading this great conversation.
Thank you, Todd. Appreciate the updates and definitely looking forward to the event next week and the conference in October and hope to see you all there. So again, we're here to talk about the expansion of the Florida market and the Florida program. And Jasmine, if you could please give us a brief intro. We're going to go around to everyone and introduce themselves. And then Jasmine, I'd like for you to kick it off and talk about your your experience in the Florida medical program, which you can start from anywhere you want.
Absolutely. Well, I guess I'll start with a thank you for having me. I appreciate the platform to share our experience and share our story. Thank you, SR Construction, for hosting this and C Lab for creating the platform for the space. It's been quite the journey. We started a few years after the first, well, not a few years, we started shortly after the first 5 licenses were awarded in the state. So we've been in the space for a few years, about 6 to 7 years in the space, hoping that the application had opened. Obviously, years went by until 2023, and unfortunately, Green Essence Florida was not awarded a license. But we did take the opportunity to reach out to several of the Pickford awardees, and we were successful in partnering with one. We are still in the process, so it remains a bit confidential for now, but you all will see Green Essence Global soon coming to the OMMU list. I'm happy to explain more about our story and some of our hurdles, so I'll let others get to their introduction and we can circle back in.
Thank you, Jasmine, and congratulations on finally becoming a licensee. Um, Eric Rogers.
Yep. Hello, Eric Rogers here with SR Construction. We're a statewide true Florida cannabis contractor. We've done over 1 million square feet of indoor cultivation. We've done 129 of the, I think 703 of the retail MMTCs throughout the state from Pensacola all the way to Key West. So we're your seed to sale uh, contractor, and we're going to get to some things where we kind of transcend the numbers for your investors, and that's going to be a big topic today is experience and Florida. It's a different market. We've seen some people come and go, so we're going to get to that today, and it takes an army, which is why we have these guys on this webinar right now. Dan Sparks, OG. You've been around a long time. You look young, but Eric, Kelley, Jasmine, Brandon. You're going to learn a lot today, and how to really talk to those investors. So we'll get to that.
Thank you, Eric. Eric Kelley, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, well, first off, just wanted to thank you, Dan and Eric, for helping to put all this together, and the C Lab team, of course. Really nice to kind of have this forum where we can all speak about our expertise in the industry. My end of the business is working on the real estate brokerage work. I am a cannabis focused broker and real estate consultant that has really launched the Florida market. I got involved in the state of Florida in the cannabis industry right at its inception, and over the years have had the pleasure of working with dozens of operators, not just in Florida, but in other states around the country. Tons of retail sites, and also working on processing and cultivation facilities, making sure that those expansion needs are met for our clients. And every client need is different. I've worked with the biggest of multi-state operators, and then, applicants and startup operations, and really just, making it my goal to help these different operators make the smartest decisions possible, make sure that we're addressing their specific needs and approach towards the market, and using all the tools at our disposal to make sure we're doing good work and solving problems along the way.
That's right. That's what it's all about.
Yes,
Lots
sir.
of problems to solve. So no shortage of opportunities for all of us.
Yeah, the cannabis industry can be really nuanced. So I think, it's important to have industry experts that can, not only leverage their experience that we've gained over the years, but also kind of speak to, some of the mistakes that have been made by legacy operators that have been in the game longer than us and experimented through these different markets and transitions that take place.
That's right. Brandon, Sivik, speaking of legacy experience, Brandon, please tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll get into the Q&A a little bit later.
Sure. Brandon Sivik, I'm with CAM Technologies. We've been in the cannabis industry since about 2017, when Florida first started to get really ramping up and getting going. We have completed well over 200, dispensaries, making sure that, the security and the DOH compliance is there. The technology infrastructure is up to, standards and security levels for PCI compliance, and just making sure that you're moving in the right direction. We also, have been involved with over 4 million square feet of the cultivation processing side, doing the same exact thing with the security infrastructure, making sure you're meeting the DOH compliance, but also doing it with meeting your cost too, right? So, there's a gray area there. A lot of some of the OGs, idea was throw cameras everywhere, right? So we've expedited that and figured out the best way to, maximize coverage with, newer products. The products change every couple of years. We all know that. We've been able to maximize that result and really sink a lot of effort into getting you the best security for, the best budget as well.
Absolutely. Security is a huge component of all the operations here in Florida. So very important. Todd Rosales, introduce yourself. We have a nice list of attendees here. There might be some people that haven't met you before, Todd, possibly.
Todd Rosales, I'm the former co-founder of the brand Heisman, currently the Florida market manager for Connected and Alien Labs, legacy brand out of Sacramento, currently partnered with Trulieve in the state of Florida.
Thank you, Todd. My name is Daniel Sparks. I'll be your host today, this expert panel of my colleagues and friends and people that have really accomplished a lot as it relates to building this program, and proud to call you guys colleagues and friends. Jasmine, please tell us what you can, right? Totally understand sensitive nature of the licensing process, but as much of your story that you're willing to share and can share, it really is something that I think is worth hearing. And I know you've probably been telling it pretty frequently lately, but again, congratulations and happy to have you on.
No, again, thank you. I'm always happy to share the story of how we got to this point. I can share everything but the name, so I'll be happy to say quite a bit. I guess I'll give a little more background of how I got into the space. My background is hospitality and tourism management. I graduated from FIU, and shortly after graduating, my family, we opened a jazz and blues restaurant downtown Miami. And quite a few people would come through it, of which one was my mentor at the time, Rosales, and he would be in government relations. So in about 2017, he would be forming the group. And I would ask, can my parents come in some way, shape, or form? Can we be investors? We like to get into the cannabis space. Our background outside of opening our jazz and blues restaurant has been real estate. So my entire life, it's been property management, real estate. I became a broker. My mom, my aunt, entire family, we're family of real estate. So between real estate and hospitality, outside of working with Norbert and interning with him, I would not have had the opportunity to really get into the application space. Norbert at the time would have put a heavy team together, everything that you need to check off. I think one of our security director at the time was like a retired FBI director. We heavy hitter package. We had senators. It was a very strong application. Unfortunately, in 2019, Norbert would pass, and it would be a decision to decide to continue on his legacy and continue on the mission by picking it up and seeing who wanted to continue on. Of course, many of those relationships were his, and it was already a very complicated space. So I was very understanding with those who did not want to come along and those who were down to just take a leap of faith. We would think maybe a year would go by or 2 years would go by and this application would come out, but it did not. And so in that time, we would have changed our medical director and with a more research focused, and they've been in the space for 3 decades, and he's a neurosurgeon. So we really had a chance to get behind a medical director and research director that have been doing clinical trials in the cannabis space focused on diabetes, sickle cell, and we're like, yes, we found our purpose, we found our why. And we found that we wanted to stick and really represent that medically focused brand, of course, that would still operate in what we know will eventually happen as an adult use market. When the application finally was published, at this point, because we had been in rehearsal so much, we knew our vendors, we had written the application. 700 pages later, we thought we had quite the application submitted, especially because we were research and clinically focused, and in the medicinal market, we thought that mattered, but there were no points assigned to that. That's another issue, but we would find out, I guess they didn't want us to have a good Thanksgiving, that we were not awarded a license. And instead of enjoying, I don't think I did anything for Thanksgiving, I started making phone calls to, for one, other applicants who were not awarded. And we had formed the Florida MMTC Association for applicants. So we were the first, unfortunately, to tell a lot of people they were not awarded and break that news to them. After that, the Pickford license would have started to come out and they were released. So we figured, let's reach out to see maybe who needs a team, a plan, a vision, who would like and appreciate what we had to offer, given that we were ready to go, just needed that license. And we would find, after talking with our attorney, after eliminating those who are going through an active litigation and other issues, we'd find the perfect match who is in line with the medicinal side of where we'd like to go, the footprint, the startup plan, who appreciated the team that we had already put in place, like SR Construction, and the vendors that we thought, we went through several interviews because all we could do is this dress rehearsal. So we talked to several construction companies, several IT companies, several CPA companies, and by time the application came, we were certain on who we wanted to work with. And we are now very happy that we went through that dress rehearsal, because we found the moment we did engage in this partnership, their countdown started. And so we started, and given that we are the partner that's bringing the operational team, the plan, and the funding, the timeline started for us. So here we are now within the first 30 days of our license, and it has been an interesting road.
Yes. I can imagine. I haven't had the same experience as you, but I have been a observer of the process and how it's rolled out, and working with some groups that have been participants. So I'm glad to hear that you found the right group, and whatever ends up coming of the previous application round and that process, we'll deal with that on the next webinar. I'm sure we'll be discussing that sooner than later. So thank you, Jasmine, for coming and for telling us about your experience in Florida. And that brings up, a series of points. One of them being that in the process of applying for and standing up an MMTC license in Florida, a big part of the application process and then immediately post licensure has to do with real estate and your plan associated with cultivation primarily, but retail production overall, right? And with the renewal fee being what it is every 2 years, that is an immediate focus, needs to be an immediate focus, having 24 months before being responsible for that. So speaking of real estate, Eric, Kelley, you and I have worked together for a number of years now, and I can't think of any real estate professional in the state of Florida, frankly, that has the breadth of experience and expertise, particularly in retail, but also in cultivation and manufacturing, and really just being involved, right? Having done this through a number of different directors in the OMMU, and like you were mentioning, and like we'll talk about, with operators of all different shapes and sizes. Definitely curious, just to kick it off, your opinion regarding expansion and how you feel that an operator should be choosing where to launch, really from the beginning, all the way from the beginning, but just in general.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate the nice words there. And it's an important question to ask, right? I think that we're in a very different climate here in Florida than we were in years past. And with so much competition that exists now, it's more important than ever to really make sure that you're making the smartest decisions for your business and making the right real estate expansion choices. And a lot of that happens, before the point that you're looking at a building and seeing if this one checks the boxes for what you need to be a successful real estate. I really find that it's important to select target markets, in phases, and know where your most opportunistic markets are to expand. And this starts really with store one and the subsequent stores that you're going to be opening within that first phase. Not all markets are created equal, and especially not in the cannabis industry. It takes more than just a general understanding of traffic counts and population counts to really choose the right markets to expand in. But while those are important data points, I really always just emphasize leaning into as much data as possible to make your intelligent decisions and where to expand. And that comes in a lot of different versions. There's some markets that are so low vacancy that you need to have them on your target market list so that you can wait for the appropriate real estate to become available, and you're now positioned to opportunistically secure that site whenever it becomes available. And if you've already underwritten the market and come to understand the opportunity there, you can be ready to strike whenever the time is right. And what does it take to identify those markets? Is something that I get asked a bit. And in my mind, we're really advantaged during this medical stage of our industry because it does bring a lot of additional data points. The state is publishing data related to the licenses that are being issued. And so, in addition to the typical data points that you would look at in real estate, like the market size, the population density, we can drill down in these different municipalities and say, what is the competition, the dispensary per population, to almost put this into a ratio to gauge the opportunity and saturation of the given market. We can look at the number of licenses that have been issued to determine how that local population, that local area is really adopting the medical market versus black market, gray market type of alternatives. A good example is right here in my backyard. In the Tampa Bay area, you've got Hillsborough and Pinellas County separated by a bridge, essentially. And the adoption rate in patient count is very evident. In Hillsborough, they've had a lot of growth in the past year. They're up to 6% of the population being a medical license holder. Meanwhile, you cross the bridge over into Pinellas County, that number goes up to 12%. So, very sizable difference. If you're looking at two different real estate sites in these same markets and you're not taking the industry specific data points as it relates to the number of patients, how fast that patient population is growing, and what are the existing sales insights? At this point, we've got a lot of stores throughout, the majority of the state, 705, as of this morning, to be exact. And to be able to gain some sales insights from those existing operators, in addition to all of the data points that are provided by the state and different real estate tools in combination, can really help you to select the markets that make the most sense, represent the best opportunities, and where you're able to have the best chance for success. At the end of the day, we're all trying to sell more product, and having that deeper understanding can really add insightful layers, on top of the more traditional real estate underwriting that a lot of brokers will provide you with.
Agreed. And in addition to economic data and traffic counts and public data, you and I have vetted a ton of sites, over 100 sites for sure. And from a compliance and zoning law perspective, talk to me about how that goes into your and our due diligence process.
Well, the first piece is kind of obvious, right? The zoning can be very nuanced, municipality to municipality, and no one wants to waste time working on a deal that can't come together. So having this good understanding of what it takes to be an eligible use and what the steps will be required to be permitted authorization to operate in this location is very important. It's to work efficiently and maximize your resources. But what I feel like a lot of people overlook whenever it comes to compliance and zoning nuance throughout the state is also the opportunity that exists. You look at the map of dispensaries across the state, and you've got clustering within the markets that are most friendly to our industry, and that's natural. You've got a lot of real estate, a sizable market, and zoning that is friendly towards the use, but it's the markets where you've got to dig a lot deeper, where you can extract a lot of value or find advantageous opportunities to really capitalize on. I think one of the recent accomplishments that I like to brag about is the Miami deal that you and I worked on. During your time with Air, we started that deal, and what a long road it was. It took us years ultimately to have that site approved, but seeing the gap in zoning legislation that existed in that market was really what highlighted the opportunity for us. And although it took a lot of resources and time to open that store, that's a home run location that it's impossible to compete with. And furthermore, you've got different markets that it's a conditional use process potentially, 8 months, a year or more that it'll take to be approved. And finding the opportunities where you can jump into that, pursue the zoning without risking a year's worth of rent or too big of a gamble can really be a unique opportunity to work on. And sometimes we find ways around that. We leased a property in Oakland Park recently where they were able to inherit a grandfathered approval, and to help that client circumvent a process that could take over a year otherwise is of immense value to them. And you've got other situations where you might have a banned municipality right next to a very eligible municipality. And a lot of people don't realize these municipal boundaries, they zigzag, they're not straight lines, circles by any means. And so looking very closely at the eligible parcels in fringe areas like that have helped us to open stores like the new Palm Beach Garden store that's just less than half a mile from the mall there. We've got another location coming to Cuesta soon. It's going to be the first dispensary in that market. And although the zoning can be a real challenge throughout the state, and sometimes it feels like a needle in a haystack search, there's a lot of opportunity to be derived from that, and something that I think all operators should be mindful of as they're kind of branching out eligible markets and where they'd like to be located.
Yeah, and I'd like to jump in here too, because this is where the GC, who normally is last, bidding a set of plans that are, not done. We offer those pre-construction and have worked with Eric on retail locations where you can get, we'll send a superintendent to that site who has done, numerous retail dispensaries. And once you whittle it down to, we really like that one, let us look at it. That way you're not walking into something that may be, on a construction side, your existing conditions could be 30% of your budget. And, that's something, I'm going to address a little later too, but that's where that's how, it takes a village to get this thing done. And the hard work is where Eric is out there and finding these opportunities. But we will do a visual inspection, provide a report, and it has been very helpful over the years to, really streamline that process for the existing 22 and everybody coming in behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. And Eric, Kelley, I'm grateful that we got to plant our flag, right, and be part of some really big entitlements, particularly the city of Miami opening the first dispensary in the city of Miami with Air Wellness. That was a 2-year plus process that was really felt like moving mountains. Took a lot of public input and going through the process of appealing, changing of the city commission and the dynamics associated with elections that went on during that period of time. Um, it was a complex process for sure. And if operators are willing to think and invest really long term, that is a big way to differentiate themselves in a, I wouldn't say saturated market, but I would say a very healthy market of damn near 1 million patients and growing, um, with the potential for adult use, um, in the relatively near future, potentially. All things considered, I don't have the crystal ball to say or to guess when that might be coming, but there has been another petition filed for the 2026 ballot. So we'll see if there is a legislative initiative, or not initiative, excuse me, legislative action via bill, um, within this session or next before we get to November 2026. Um, Eric Rogers, once we've got our license and we have our real estate, um, if I were a licensee, you would be one of my first calls as
Yeah.
it relates to building compliant, functional, efficient operations across the state. So tell us about your expertise in that field, please.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And what I'd like to do though is Brandon is a big part of that to begin with. So I would like to talk about the security, measures, and this is for the new folks coming to Florida. You may not know, right? And who are buying their licenses and they're ready to go now. And then obviously, the intent to award, they're probably interested in what is the first step. And Brandon and I kind of walk hand in hand on site, right, Brandon? I don't know how many we
That's right.
visited. Yeah, here recently together, but he really is up first, and then I'm gonna roll through some information for everybody. The existing 22 need to hear this. 2026 is going to be here. Things are going to happen before 2026, and Florida is the game of the century, right? This is the state. So yeah, Brandon, kind of give your because it's going to work into where I'm going here.
Sure, no problem. Um, so like Eric said, we've done a few already. In the grand scheme of things, the security and technology piece is little, but it's one of the most important, right? The building the infrastructure is a huge piece, right? Building your facilities out, that's huge. But if it's not the important, it is one of the most important because, without it, you can't have any of those. You can't have your dispensaries, you can't have your cultivations, your processing facilities. That's where we, over the last 5 years have really excelled in making sure that you guys are there and what you need. We've done this across multiple states, not just Florida. We've done majority of in Florida. Daniel and I have been doing this together a long time, actually, in some of his previous life adventures. And I give you an example. Just recently, we had one that had a hiccup. The BOH was picky about a certain corner of the building, right? And we got people right there immediately, to take care of the situation. But the idea of it is to be ahead of it first and not have to wait until your inspections here and you're saying, oh, this isn't right, you're missing this, and now you're missing your opening dates and your final inspection dates, and because Eric's part of it is huge, right? But even on the permitting side, we'll talk about South Florida a little bit because everybody knows that's a pain on the construction side. The security aspect of it, they really, really drilled down on it really hard. So it's good for us to get in there and get those stuff taken care of early, not waiting. We've had some instances where we were brought in last and we had to do a permit just like construction did. And now they had to push their opening date. Now they had to do this, and it really kind of threw everything for a twist. And we want to be there first, and help you in the process. And we've been to a few customers recently that they went and looked at a facility, and our recommendation was no go. You know, you guys, there's just not going to be compliant. You're not going to get the approval that you need based on that location. So it's, you know, good to get us in there, you know, as soon as you are ready to start, and, you know, let us, you know, do the walkthroughs with you and go over the designs. And, you know, also it affects your budget. You know, again, our piece is small as in the size, but it's one of the most important. And, you know, depending on your facility, could be expensive as well, right? So, you know, that's just where we're at on that. Like I said earlier, we've done well over 200 dispensaries across the United States. You know, well over 4 million square foot of cultivation and processing, and we've been, you know, super successful at making sure you guys are compliant and ready to roll.
Brandon, there is no other security contractor that I would even think of calling. And you know, going through the True Leaf boot camp that was 2019, 2020, and 21. I'm incredibly grateful for that, because there's no replacement and there is no parallel to opening a dispensary a week for months on end. And that can be done. It has been done. I don't know if it will ever be done again in Florida, but if you want to accomplish that, the people on this panel are equipped and experienced in any speed that you can throw at us, frankly. And opening a dispensary a week is a very fast clip that requires coordination that yeah, it's hard to describe, frankly. But that being said, thank you to everyone for gleaning us with your insights and experience. Todd, Rosales, we haven't heard from you this whole time. I was starting to get concerned.
Yeah, I know. It's not very often that I don't speak much. I mean, candidly, I'm in a very lucky position because I get to call a lot of the folks on this panel, if not people who work with them, my friends. So, you know, working with this team of experts is a no-brainer for me, because of the people I trust most in the industry. You know, I think part of the reason I was asked to speak on this panel is as someone who's currently operating in the market, to speak on the market conditions, right? Everybody here is very pie in the sky. You're coming into the market. What do you need to be successful? We need to have your shit together to be successful, because if you don't, it's a knife fight out there. Robert Beasley said that, and I don't think there's a better way to describe the Florida market than a knife fight. We have 22 people right now that currently occupy the market. There is no sellouts. There's plenty of weed on the shelves. People are not selling out. We are more than supplying the market. Does that mean that there's not room for 22 more? No, there's certainly room for people. Prime came into a market where Gatorade had been dominant for decades, right? Liquid Death came into a bottled water market and blew it out of the water when bottled water has been around forever, right? So there's certainly room for new players, but I can tell you there won't be 44 at the end of the day when it's all said and done. So some of the 22, you're going to lose market share or you're going to disappear. The new 22, you may not make it out of the gates or you might combat. And, you know, we were at a conference recently where someone said, oh, everyone tells me they want to be the next True Leaf and you're not going to compete with them. You can. Be dead serious. There was one company that could have went for True Leaf, Harvest, and they got acquired by True Leaf. So, you know, True Leaf obviously saw them as a threat. They made the acquisition, and that's what's going to happen going forward. But, you know, there is room in the market for you, but you better have your quality there. You could work with every single expert on this panel, which I highly recommend, because if you do not execute perfectly, you are a step behind everybody else that is in the market. So go to an expert. You don't have the time to make mistakes right now. And your quality better be there. It doesn't matter if you're selling it for $10 an eighth, $15 an eighth. If it's not good, they're not going to come back. They'll buy it one time and they'll go somewhere else. So just make sure you have your ducks in a row. And if you got to spend a few extra bucks to get some outside help, it is heavily worth the investment.
Yeah, and to kind of finish up, and I know, you know, we're here at 5 o'clock, so I'll be short, which is shocking everybody that knows me. First of all, C Lab, great platform. for you, ancillary or licensee, regardless, give them a look. They're national, they're Florida state. Florida is different. I say this all the time. A lot of the guys that exited left told them that. They've actually called back and said, yep, Eric, you're right. And it does take a village, but folks that understand the Florida unique construction landscape. Eric Kelley, buddy, he is gold from, getting getting Dan Spark, get a consultant, right? That already has like the tree, and then ask, the general contractor, because we're not an I know. We've learned since legalization, right, Todd? And we understand the original 22 and the guys that are here purchasing cultivation facilities. There's a shelf life, and you can tell who, cut all the corners and took them, they failed all their inspections and took them a year when it could have been done in, 90 days, et cetera. We could go back, but some of the things that everyone should consider is it's going to happen. It's going to be legal. And where are you positioned? Period. And then how do you get there? Your infrastructure is one of your most expensive, and your investors are going to want to know how smart you are. And this is where we've learned, right? Jasmine, kind of getting in, she has an advantage, right? Because everybody on this call has learned things not to do. And we have been in so many cultivations, we sign NDAs. I can tell you what not to do, and that's worth millions. And same thing, Eric Kelley. You don't need a shotgun. Florida is a big state, right, Eric? It is big. And it's different in the north than the south. And it's changing. For example, what we're seeing, and everyone needs to listen. The original, if you've got a cultivation site, you're like, we're already good, we're set. The state of Florida is changing ag, dealing with life safety. Better be ready, right? And we're ahead of that. We're in the middle of it. So you want someone who, can get in the room, and the earlier the GC is in the room with everyone else, the better. Your engineers, your architects, and we have a dream team of architects and engineers who have done Florida cultivation and retail. And it makes a difference because your investors understand what? ROI, speed to market. I don't care if you're saving 25 cents on a doorknob. Am I open? Guarantee you, I make more money if I'm open with a good product, and I built a cultivation facility that's going to support my brand, right? Everyone else, I've got the best brand, in Florida. That's why you buy us. So whatever your strategy is, do it right the first time, and believe me, your investors, they'll come back to you. So, and we're going to do, Todd, a deep dive. We're going to do a podcast, right, where we can, kind of sit around and talk shop. But uh, honestly, this panel, the folks that you're seeing here, it may not be us, but you want a Florida specific, experienced individual, because it's different. You think your guy from California or Arizona or wherever can bring it in, they'll learn, but the expensive way.
And they'll hire a local contractor.
Yeah, oh man.
And I definitely
We
want
all,
to
yeah, and Jasmine, you go ahead because you've seen it. Yeah.
I'll co-sign you. Eric has gone to multiple sites until we found the perfect cultivation site.
Yes.
Dispensaries, he helped us find our first two, and they're prime locations and in great spots. So I will say Eric goes beyond the role of a GC. I don't know how you find this energy, but I do for us as an organization, because you have gotten us on the right track, and we do look forward to opening very soon thanks to your assistance.
Please do so in the chat. I'm looking at the host and panelist chat and not able to toggle.
You can't get to the Q&A?
Not from, I see the
I
host and
haven't been able
panelist,
to
but
either.
I can't
Yeah.
unselect it.
All right. Contact information for panelists. We'll come right back to that one. So we'll finish off by everybody sharing their contact information, unless you want to just run through it right now. Eric, Jasmine, Brandon, Dan, just give your contact information and then we'll move on to the next question.
Yeah, it should be in the chat.
So the
That's
chat,
our,
Oh, the
yeah,
chat's
that's our,
unable
going
to
to
be
us. Yeah,
shared.
just if you don't mind, just verbally giving it to people. Your personal address, your social security number, all that.
yeah, absolutely. My
That's
email
funny.
is,
We received something from Harvest with a social security number on it from top two guys.
There you
That's
go.
funny you said that. Yeah.
All right. So real quick,
so
everybody,
yeah,
email, phone number, whatever you want to give out.
yeah,
Find me
Dan
at
Sparks Consulting. My email is Daniel,
Mm.
DANIEL at sparksconsulting.co.
Jasmine Johnson. You can find me at greenessenceflorida.com or jjohnson at greenessenceflorida.com.
And I am Eric Kelley. You can reach me at 404-704-7888. That's my cell phone. You can email me at Eric, ERIC, at netleasedirect.com.
Yeah, Brandon Sivik, Cam Technologies. Email is brandon.civic, and Civic is SIVIK at cam, that's KAM, dash technologies.com.
You got it. Eric, Mr. Rogers, SR Construction, direct 602-430-3949, office 561-290-0402. Email Eric at S is in Sam hyphen R is in Roger hyphen construction.com. Thank you.
All
See
right.
everyone at I am so American Social Los Olas shortly.
Wait, one
Thanks
more
for joining us.
question, if anybody
Oh,
has the answer to this. How do you see the Florida legislature's hemp rules affecting the cannabis industry in Florida? Dude, that can be a completely other webinar,
Yeah.
which probably should
Well,
be.
I'll
But
be brief. There was a bill filed and then immediately repealed or pulled that would have drastically changed how hemp-derived cannabinoids are sold in Florida. So the fact that it was pulled immediately and the senator stated that he was going to reintroduce a home cultivation bill, standalone for home cultivation, to me, that seems like trying to appeal to some individuals that did not vote for Amendment 3 because they wanted home grow. And whether or not there's an actual appetite for home grow is a whole nother thing. And how hemp will eventually be regulated in Florida is to be determined. The legislative session starts in March. I'm tracking a number of bills and a number of committees. So if that's something you're interested in, please let me know.
right. Next one. Do you know anything about the timelines for when a warder will receive their licenses? It's actually a week from next Thursday. So I'm kidding. Nobody actually knows. It's going to be tied up for a while. Dan, unless you have any insight.
No, not necessarily, but similar response to the last question, right? There's a legislative session that's starting in March. Whether or not there will be legislative action to expedite the intent to award being converted to an actual license is to be determined. So go to Tallahassee, contact your representatives and senators, and contact us if that's something you want to pursue.
And the last one, wait, hold on. Oh wait, there's more coming. Jeez. All right, so this one we can roll up into Dan's answers. What are changes are you seeing in the 2026 ballot versus the one that failed in 2024? In my opinion, they're just trying to cover all the holes that were in the 2024 ballot. They've given legislature the ability to grant home grow, no public smoking. Basically everything you saw the DeSantis commercials say were a problem. They've tried to button that up, even though they were kind of buttoned up the first time. Um,
On that though, specifically, right? The new ballot initiative for 2026, it has restrictions on advertising and marketing and how products can be packaged, labeled, so that they're not attractive to children, minors in any way. I see that as potentially being part of regulations, a bill, some attempt to curb hemp derived cannabinoid sales in Florida. I don't think that it'll be completely eliminated as it was basically attempted to be done last session. That was also vetoed by DeSantis, who is still our governor. So there's
It looks
a lot
like
of tennis match. A lot of it. Go ahead, Jasmine.
I was gonna say, it looks like many of the MTCs are not producing many low THC products. I would wonder if an oversimplification would be where smoke shops are allowed to purchase and sell products from MMTCs that are low THC. That way, MMTCs can be encouraged to grow that, and smoke shops can distribute it in their 10,000 location footprint.
All right, last question. As far as professionals, what companies are people going with when it comes to business management consulting, i.e., aiding and getting operations up and running effectively? Sparks Consulting, duh.
Thank you. Thank you, Todd.
Is
We
there
get we
anybody
get
else?
called a lot. Yeah, we get called a lot, and that's why we bring in the team. Brandon, Eric, Dan, and it really does make a difference for Florida. We're CRB bankable. Don't think about that. But that's why my vendors in Florida get better pricing because they know I can cash the check. We pay for the pleasure. And again, that is just one of many things. So I think Eric, you get called. I think Brandon, you get called directly. I think Daniel gets called directly. Who do you guys talk to? And when it comes to value engineering, talking ROI with your investors, the big ticket items, again, that's where, we kind of come in, but it comes in with all of us, right? It's one of those that makes sense to the investor, right? Which is now 2025, 2026. He's the most important guy here, right? So that's the guy you need to show off for. And
Give me
experience in
oh, sorry.
Florida matters. Yeah, because there's been a lot of guys, you could call it mismanagement, but it really was just they didn't know what they didn't know because Florida gives you a lot of snake bites out there. It's
Experience
interesting.
is critical, and if
Yeah.
you do choose to work with any consultant in Florida or otherwise, make sure that that consultant has actually dealt with the regulatory body and has experience handling issues and solving problems with the regulatory body that you're going to be regulated by. Um, I myself have submitted over 100 variances, been part of over 100 inspections. Um, I've navigated and problem solved some pretty complex issues and problems for some of the biggest operators in the space. So if you do choose to work with a consultant, their experience in the state that you're looking to operate in is critical.
Yeah, and ask somebody if they have done design build or design assist so we can back into your budget with the
So
architect. It,
So they amended their question more so of consultants on making sure the extractions are run correctly, cultivation nutrient programs are coordinated correctly, developing formulations, and edibles or other SKUs. Guys like Dan can certainly help you out with that. He's a lot more familiar with the cannabis plant than he leads you to believe here. He's not just a compliance dork, no offense, Dan.
Thank you.
But there are a lot of people out there. There are brands that will be happy to help take over operations. I'm sure Jasmine's team is essentially doing just that. Somebody has a license and she has the experts that are coming in to build out the company. So, if you have a license there's a lot of people out there. I wish I can give you one, but it's, who feels right to you? Who do you trust? Whose products do you like? Simple as that.
Happy to have a conversation with
They're anonymous, so I can't tell you who it is.
okay. Happy to speak to you offline further in depth. If it kind of sounds like this may be a staffing related issue. So it could be resolved via hiring the right employee as opposed to
Outside consultant.
I don't want to say just a consulting thing, but it's it's not a one size fits all. There's not one answer to your question.
Thanks, Dan. I'll reach out. Thank you, Anonymous. All right. As far as the questions go, I know I kind of went from panelist to moderator there, but that seems to be the end of it. Unless anybody has any last questions they want to throw into the chat, I'll let Dan take us home.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you to the attendees for coming on and asking some great questions. Thank you to my co-panelists. Jasmine, congratulations again. Look forward to helping you along your journey. And yeah, hope to see you guys at AMSO in Fort Lauderdale and at Canna DataCon next week, and otherwise as soon as
Tampa.
possible. And in Tampa. Thanks,
You're
everybody.
We'll
Good
see you in a
deal.
month.
Thank you guys. Yep.
Thank you all. Bye.
Take care. Have a good night.